everyone, and welcome back. I'm Rachel, and I have something really fun to talk with you about today. I posted on Instagram earlier this morning asking how you prefer to hear from me, whether it's via YouTube or via podcast, because I've kind of dabbled in each, and I can appreciate the benefits of either one. I mean, with YouTube, you have my face, so it feels maybe a little bit more personal. With the podcast, you can be in your car listening, which is how I often absorb my information, is through listening to a podcast in my car. So I can fully appreciate both. And then I took the poll, and most of you said YouTube. And then I thought, hey, I'm thinking way too small. I could do both in the same amount of time, right? I could film to YouTube and also do my podcast at the same time. So anyways, it just reminded me of those moments where we're just thinking too small and we can think bigger. So anyways, here we are. We have both. And today I want to talk to you about two different concepts that I feel like maybe get intermingled with one another. And it kind of clarifies the question I get on a very regular basis from my clients or from other people through social media is, Rachel, how do you stay motivated? So how do you carry on what you carry on long term? How have you managed to sustain the activity level that you have sustained? So just a brief little summary about what I do, because you might not know. And then I wanted to dive into these two concepts to answer that question for you. So I'm a runner right now. That's something that's ever changing, I feel like, and I'm not sure, maybe this will stick, but I don't know. But right now I'm a runner. I train for marathons, and I've been doing this consistently for 2 years. And by consistently, I mean running 6 days a week usually. I've had some weeks where I haven't quite run that much, but pretty much it's always 6 days a week. And I also incorporate swimming. That one not as consistently because I actually despise it, but I do it when I do it because I know it's good. And cycling, which I incorporate once a week. On the off day that I don't run, I incorporate cycling, or maybe even a little bit more often than once a week, maybe after an easy run, or 15 to 20 minutes in the morning to wake up my legs and my body. And then I also strength train at least once a week. So I'll get into that at a later date, but I also strength train consistently. So that has been going on for 2 years. Before the 2 years, I was still quite active, but mostly in weightlifting. So 7-ish years ago, maybe a little bit more, I got into weightlifting, and that was something that I did quite consistently, so much so that I competed in a fitness competition. And I had another baby after that. That was after I had my second baby. And it kind of came and went, but I was still fairly consistent in what I did. So you can say I've been consistently active for 2 years with running, and maybe up to 8 years, depending on your definition of consistent and dedicated to the movement aspect of my health. Marathon training is a lot. It's a lot. It means for me training a good 2 hours a day, because with marathon training, you're running, you're stretching, you're foam rolling, and there's so many other things that go into it. And you're doing the strength training, your hip work, your band work, your core work to complement running. So for me, what running means to me is 2 hours a day of something. And when I'm in the thick of marathon training, when I actually have a race coming up, it's probably more than that. So it's very time consuming and very energy consuming as well. So of course I get the question, how do you do it day in and day out? How do you stay motivated? And the short answer is I don't stay motivated. So there's two concepts that I want to talk about, as you can see behind me if you're on YouTube, motivation and discipline. These two things go hand in hand, but at the same time, they're different. So motivation is what people want to know. How are you motivated? And that tends to be what people think of when it comes to sustainability and long-term success, whatever you define success is, in fitness and health. For me, and I mean, you can read so many different opinions and so many different definitions about these two concepts, but I'm just going to clarify what this means for me. And you can come up with your own ideas and concepts, how it sits with you and how it feels for you. But for motivation, for me, motivation is something that does not last. Motivation comes and motivation goes. Motivation is what you see on New Year's Day. And that first month of the year, everybody is motivated, they're feeling good, they've come up with their why behind why they want to lose weight or why they want to become fit, and the gym is packed. That's motivated people. And there's nothing wrong with motivation. In fact, I think you need motivation to find sustainable change when it comes to fitness and health, but you can't have it by itself. So for me, motivation is the why behind what you're doing. Motivation is the feeling, right? You get excited, you get hopeful, you're ready to kill it, you go to the gym, you're feeling great, you post it all over social media, and then a month later, you just don't feel like going. Your motivation starts to go down. And when that happens, I don't think the sustainability comes from just the motivation, because I also believe that you need discipline in order to stabilize your motivation and to bring you long-term change. So discipline, self-discipline, to me means the action and the, what's the word I'm looking for? The tools and the things that you've set up, that's not the word I'm looking for, but it'll come. So the things that you've set up in your life to ensure that when your motivation wanes, your discipline jumps in. I have many different ways that I've helped create self-discipline, and I have a degree in psychology, so I find the concepts of innate and learned so fascinating. So do I think discipline comes innately? That's a great question. I think some people are maybe more geared toward discipline and find it a little bit easier to discipline themselves in any regard. But when I look back on my past, I was absolutely not always a disciplined person. I was all over the place. I lacked motivation. I didn't work out for a long period of time. I dealt with a lot of really bad social anxiety, so I was homebound a lot. I didn't really have goals. I didn't get out much. So I think for me, discipline is something that maybe is partially part of who I am. And it became a process of excavating that discipline covered under layers of fear, doubt, shame, and feelings of not being good enough. So I think I've also learned to become self-disciplined in a number of ways. And I'd like to share some of those tools and ideas with you. But I'd also love to hear what you've done as far as self-discipline comes in your life. So with self-discipline, it's all about building routines and structures. That's what I was looking for. Routines and structures in your life so that when the motivation disappears, you still are able to go through with whatever it is you're looking to go through with. So I equate a lot of this with running just because that's where I'm at and that's what my experience is. But yours might be healthy eating, yours might be going for a daily walk, yours might be something career-oriented, parenting-oriented, whatever it is for you. I feel like these two concepts can encompass a large number of things that we're looking at. So motivation is your why, and motivation and discipline together, I think, is what creates sustainable change. So motivation, it's great to have that why, it's great to know where you're at, what you're doing, have those little mantras, have those little images and pictures. This is whether it's your children. For me, a lot of my why comes from my mom passing away when I was 23, and she passed away of lung cancer. And for me, it's like, gosh, you know, if my mom took care of her health, if she didn't smoke, if she didn't drink for like 12 years of her life, if she exercised and ate healthy foods and just harnessed her health and took care of her body, She might be here. She might be here to see me get married, to see me get divorced, to see me graduate university, to see me buy my own home, to meet my children, to know my children, to be there with me through all the things that I needed her to be there with me for. So my motivation comes from a place of, it's not regret, I guess it's regret through her, but just knowing that I'm missing so much and my kids are missing so much because my mom couldn't take care of her health. And maybe that's not the case. Maybe she would have passed away anyways. But I firmly believe that had she taken the time and effort and knowledge and put that toward her health and well-being, I feel like I wouldn't have been ripped off of all that I've been ripped off of. And I don't believe my kids would have been ripped off of not knowing her. And she was an incredible human being and she could have done so much more in this world. So my motivation is very high. That's a deep-seated emotion for me, clearly, and it's a trauma that I've had to deal with for, I don't even know how long she's been gone, way longer than it feels like. I deal with that all the time. So that motivation for me fires me and fuels me for all that I do. Now, having said that, on Sundays are my long run days. Sundays running 32 kilometers. I can't tell you that I wake up saying, yes, let's get this done. I'm so excited. This is going to be so much fun. I'm super motivated. Let's go. That doesn't happen all that often, to be honest with you. Even on some of the shorter runs, like a 10 kilometer run is a little bit shorter for me right now. But even on those runs, some days I'm just tired. I have other things I could do with that hour of my time. I don't want to do it. I just ran 6 days in a row. I don't want to run. My motivation plummets. My motivation is non-existent. And no matter how much I think about my mom or go through the mantra or try to tap into that why, no matter how much I do that, some days, forget it. There's no tapping in. There's no aligning myself with that motivation because some days are just really hard. And this is where discipline carries me through. This is where discipline moves me to action. This is where discipline holds my hand up over the hump of I don't want to. This is where discipline slices through all the excuses that I can come up with. So it's super important. If you're looking at long-term change in any area of your life, I feel like you need to cultivate both motivation and discipline. Okay, so great, Rachel. That's great to know all these things. Now, how do you create discipline? Motivation, as I've said, let's start there. This is all backwards. So anyway, motivation. To create motivation is coming up with your why, which sounds so cliche, and I almost hate saying that, but it's true. Your motivation. Your motivation is in your kids. That's such a blanket motivation. Your motivation is deeper. Your motivation is detailed. Your motivation causes you to feel something. So as I've just gone over my motivation with you, clearly slightly emotional, and it's deep. My motivation is I want to take care of my health and nurture my body for 2 reasons. 1, so my children don't have to be without their mother because I know what that life is like and it freaking sucks. And number 2, so that my mom's life that was cut short, I am not slapping that in the face by not honoring my body and this life and my health. I feel like if I let my health go and if I don't take care of myself, I am basically saying, Mom, your life wasn't worth anything, so why should I care about myself? No, her life meant something to me. She gave birth to me. She helped raise me. She was this incredible role model for me in so many ways. And I feel like I'm doing her life and her spirit a complete disservice if I don't live my best life. And for me, living my best life means taking care of this vessel that carries me through my life. That's my motivation. It's deep and detailed and hits my heart. I think some people with their whys are maybe a little bit too blanket, a little bit too general, and they don't go deep enough. And getting deep enough might excavate some of those emotions, and that's good. That's what you can tap into. So that's how I find my motivation. I've had to dig a little bit deep for that, and that's okay, but that's what resonates with me. Discipline. So discipline This is the good stuff. Discipline are those habits that you cultivate to ensure that the work gets done. This is, people say, you need to do something every day for 30 days. Some say 60. I think the number's now something random like 63 days or 66 days in order to have a habit stick. I don't love numbers like that. I think discipline is something that you do every single day until. So discipline for me is things that I've set up in my life to ensure that the work gets done. What does that look like for me? And I realize we all have different schedules. We all have different lives. So what I do might not work for you, and I completely appreciate that. This is what works for me. So to give you a summary of my life, I am a full-time mom of 3 children. I'm a single mom. I am almost divorced. My children are ages 10, 8, and 5. So we're talking busy stage. Busy? Yeah, I just had them for the last 5 days straight. So there I am, busy. They're busy. They keep me very occupied. So I'm also in school full-time. So aside from this virus, I actually had to go to school full-time. But now that we're all isolated, I don't go to school, but I'm in school, online, with a camera. I need to participate. I need to be there Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 12:30 every single day. On top of that, I work. I work a lot more when I'm not in self-isolation. So I work as a yoga instructor. I am also a personal trainer. And I also do a little bit on the side with nutrition because I'm a holistic nutritionist and reflexology. And I teach classes in Pilates and boot camp and all sorts of fun things. So as you can see, my world very much revolves around health and wellness. I own a home. I know somebody said to me recently that I don't have to worry about mortgage, but I own my home, so I do have a mortgage that I worry about. So single mom, full-time school, almost full-time work, a home, etc. That's what my life looks like. So you set up your life how you can, right? We do the best with what we have, and this is what I'm doing with my life. Yours might look different. So number 1, discipline. When it comes, and I'm just talking about my fitness and my running schedule, basically, because that's what people tend to ask about. So discipline for me, number 1, I schedule in my workouts. That is an absolute must. So I have a schedule, and I put in at school, because that's mandatory at the same time every day. I obviously know when I have my children. I do share them with my ex-husband. So I have in my schedule, this is when I go to school. And then I schedule the classes that I teach because, again, that's same time. That's non-negotiable. That's just when it happens. And then I schedule in, this is what I did in September. I change my schedule fairly regularly because I teach different classes and I feel out how my life feels, and if it's not feeling right, I make sure that I make changes where I need to. So then in September, what I did, I scheduled my classes, my school, and then I looked at my calendar at every single day and found a 2-hour block, and I fit it in. I actually printed out a calendar with the times from 4:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. and color-coded and blocked in what I needed to block in. So I ensured I blocked in 2 hours a day. I know people are going to say I don't have 2 hours a day, and that's fine. I'm probably in excess of most in the amount of fitness I have, but that's just the nature of marathon running, right? It requires more. But I also firmly believe that you do have half an hour a day. You do. And I know you're going to say you don't, but you do. If you check your screen time on your phone, see how long you've been on your screen, your average daily screen time, you might be a bit surprised. Do you lay in bed for 15 minutes in the morning playing on your phone? Do you watch 2.5 hours of TV at night? I mean, everybody needs some downtime, of course, but I feel like you can carve out half an hour. And if you don't think so, you can message me and we'll find it. So anyways, I carved out 2 hours a day. Then after that, I scheduled in my clients, my personal training clients. Thankfully for me, the women that I work with mostly have flexible schedules, or flexible enough that we can move them around if we need to. And then, of course, I try not to block much into the time that I have with my children. So scheduling it in is an absolute necessity. If it's not scheduled in, you'll be more likely to just forget about it or allow other things to come on top. Okay, the laundry's piling up. Well, I'm just going to do my laundry. No, you look at your schedule. If that 2 hour or whatever your number is, 2 hour again is excessive, I realize. But if your number is 30 minutes, find where in your schedule every single day that you can fit that in and devote that only to what you're devoting it to. Fitness, for me, it's running or weightlifting or whatever I'm doing exercise-wise that day. And be non-negotiable with this time. Friends ask it, and my friends will tell you, I am highly unavailable. And that's my choice right now, how I'm setting my life up right now, because running brings so much into my life. And I'm not saying I don't see my friends and I don't talk to my friends, but no often comes out of my mouth, more so than it ever has in my life. And I'm very conscious of what is tapping on my door and what's trying to pull me by my hand and the things that I need to say no to. No, that sounds terrible. I do spend time with my friends, but I'm not as readily available to life in general as I once was, because I've set this up for myself and I'm very non-negotiable with that. I'm sorry I can't because I'm training. Sorry, I can't, I'm training. Let's see if it works any other part of my schedule. So finding that non-negotiability as you've scheduled it in. Schedule it in and don't touch it. That is your time to get your fitness in, or whatever it is you're setting up. So setting up a time schedule and scheduling it is absolutely my number one way I create self-discipline, and being non-negotiable with that. Number two is, and these are in no particular order because there's one that's very important, but I kind of want to save. Number two is setting goals. Now for me, I'm very goal oriented. Oh man, give me a goal and I'm going to work and work and work and work. I set up goals for my business. I set up goals for running. I set up goals for finances. I set up crazy, weird goals all the time because I love goals. If my GPS tells me I'm going to get somewhere in 20 minutes, I set a goal to get there in 19. I'm very interesting when it comes to that, I guess. Even this week, I needed groceries on Wednesday, and I went to do the online ordering because that's how I'm preferring to grocery shop right now. I don't want to go in there. And it was a week wait. So I was like, oh crap. And I just had my kids for 5 days. I'm like, all right, let's set a goal. We're going to ration out our food and get creative. So I love finding goals in everything that I do. It makes life really fun for me. And I'm very competitive and I'm very goal oriented. So for me to set up goals, that helps with my motivation and my discipline, because if I have a goal in sight, then I'll work. That sparks my motivation, but it also nudges me toward discipline, if that makes any sense. So my goal might be to run a marathon. That's kind of a big goal. Your goal can be short term, it can be long term. Maybe my goal this week is to ensure I get 3 hours of strength training, and I'm setting that goal. I have something in mind, something in sight. It's just for me. It's kind of silly. That one doesn't mean much of anything other than I want to set that goal. And that helps me with discipline and motivation because I love goals. I thrive off of goals. May or may not work for you, but I find that very helpful. Number three, it kind of goes hand in hand with scheduling, but for me and my health and my running, it's very important for me to fuel my body with good foods. If I don't, I'm going to feel like garbage. I'm not going to have the energy. I'm going to be really tired. I'm not going to be able to perform at a level that I want to perform at. I can't ask my body to run 30 kilometers if I'm feeding it a whole bunch of crap. It's just not going to happen. So it's extremely important for me to fuel my body with healthy food. So that's when the discipline aspect of sustainable change for me, I have to do meal preps, food prep. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I get lazy about this because it's just me. My 3 kids don't really eat the same way that I do, and I don't expect them to. I'm pretty blah about how I eat. But this is something that's very important, and it always sets me up for success. It's something that I could be more disciplined with, but it's the discipline in food prep that clears the path for my success, if that makes any sense. So for me, that is batch cooking, and meal prep is something super easy. You spend an hour and a half one day a week cooking a whole bunch of chicken. For me, it's a crock pot. I don't own a barbecue. I wish I did. But for me, it's a crock pot. I throw everything in a crock pot. Sweet potatoes go in the crock pot. All my rice goes in a rice cooker. I'm super simple in the kitchen. All my veggies go in my steamer. I can just throw all this stuff together, walk away, and it'll be ready for me when I need it to be ready. And that's your week worth of food. Most foods will keep for five days is what I usually do. On the weekends, I don't food prep, but I'm quite conscious about what I'm putting into my body. So for me, that helps with my discipline. Maybe not so much my motivation, but wanting to be disciplined. Helps with the motivation of food prep. If that makes sense. And then the other way I have created self-discipline is through sleep. And it requires discipline to find that sleep schedule. But when you're on that sleep schedule, self-discipline feels easier, because sleep is one of those things that people really struggle with, and I understand. For those who love staying up at night, that's your chill time. That's your time to be alone and without noise and chaos. It's really hard to shut things down when you're staying up. But then it's also really hard to get up in the morning, and you're not going to wake up feeling energized. So for me, I'm extremely disciplined with my sleep schedule. I find that since we've been in self-isolation that maybe this has waned a bit, but I'm extremely disciplined with my sleep schedule normally. So normally, and weekends I kind of go off a bit, not too much, but a little bit. I'll let myself sleep in a little bit. For those who know me, know that I started waking up early about 7-8 years ago when I started getting into weightlifting, and I had a brand new baby and a toddler at home. Those early mornings were, my time of solitude, and it was my favorite time of the day. And I have maintained that discipline because I've just seen so many benefits from getting up early. I get way more done. I'm always at my best in the morning. I have the most amount of energy in the morning. I'm most creative in the morning. I feel most motivated, and I just feel the best first thing in the morning. It's not easy for me to get up as early as I do a lot of mornings, but I do. Except that maybe this past week and a half. Got to get back on the train. But I go to bed at 9 o'clock. So I'm quite, and my children know this, I'm quite adamant about getting in my bed by 8:15 and lights out by 9 o'clock. There are very few things that get in the way of this routine, including the coronavirus. I feel like maybe it's gotten in the way a bit, but that's just an excuse. So I'm pretty adamant about that, bed by 9 o'clock. And then I get up, I set my alarm for 4:47 a.m. every day. And I realize that's a random number. I don't love linear. I don't love what feels like the proper thing. Like 4:45 just feels too formal for me. I need 4:47. Give me something weird. I don't want to be normal. So 4:47 I set my alarm for, and it's not often, again, other than this past week and a half, it's not often that I sway from either side of that. Lights out by 9, up at 4:47, and I can tell you since starting this specific routine, which started in September when I went back to school full time, I've never felt better. My energy has never been more consistent, and I just feel good all day. And there's a culmination of things and reasons why I feel that way. But anyway, sleep schedule is super important. And once you're on that sleep schedule, your body just knows what to expect and what to do. And I find that humans in general, we thrive off of schedules and routines. This is why there's so many books on getting babies on a sleep routine, on an eating schedule. And somewhere along the way, we as adults sway from routine and schedule. But I find if you set up a schedule, and it doesn't mean you're locked in, it doesn't mean that you have no freedom in your life, it actually creates more freedom in your life, I find. It doesn't mean that you're boring. It doesn't mean that you can't be mindful of moments that pull you away from your schedule. But if you're looking for long-term sustainable change and harnessing your health and wellness, I find schedules and routines very much a benefit. And being disciplined about my schedule, my routine, has made the discipline for fitness so easy. If you can discipline yourself at going to bed and waking up the same time every day, you will find it so much easier to be disciplined in the gym or any other area of your life. I find that's one of the biggest struggles people have. So those are the ways I set up my life for success. That kind of summarizes long-windedly the differences I find between motivation and discipline, and why I feel like each has their importance in your life, and why I think each go hand in hand, but one without the other won't necessarily create long-term change. You can be disciplined all you want, but if you don't have the motivation, that discipline is going to feel like a chore, and you won't feel good in the discipline, if that makes sense. So discipline and motivation go hand in hand, and it's kind of up to you to create both in your life if you want to stay motivated. So you can understand why when people say to me, Rachel, how do you stay motivated? I don't have a good answer, because that is my answer. And that's a really long answer. So I hope that makes sense to you. And I hope that kind of gives you an idea of where my brain is at and how I've managed to run so consistently, and I don't see an end in sight, hopefully. If you're following along on YouTube, I would love if you could comment below and share maybe different ways that you've set up discipline in your life, or how you found your motivation, or how you've created long-term change in your life. I know your answers will probably be different. Maybe there'll be some overlap, but to help out everybody who's watching, I would love for you to share in the comments. Until then, I would also love if you connected with me. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. That's where I post most of my stuff. It's Rachel's Fitness and Wellness. Or you can email me anytime with questions, comments, feedback, ideas for what you want to see, any content you want me to cover. It's info@racheljane.net. Until then, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and stay healthy.